The most common system for the compression of video is MPEG. It works like this. The single data stream of the CD-ROM is split into video and audio components, which are then decompressed using separate algorithms. The video is processed to produce individual frames as follows. Imagine a sequence of frames depicting a bouncing ball on a plain background. The very first is called an intra-frame or iframe. Iframes are compressed using only information in the picture itself, just like conventional bitmap compression techniques like JPEG. Following iframes will be one or more operative frames or p-frames. The difference between the p-frames and the iframe is based on the only data that is stored for this p-frame. For example, in the case of a bouncing ball, the P picture is stored simply as a description of how the position of the ball has changed from the previous iframe. This takes up a fraction of the space that will be used if you store the P frame as a picture in its own right. Shape or color changes are also stored in the P frame. The next P frame may also based on this P frame and so on. Storing the difference between the frames gives the massive reduction in the amount of information needed to reproduce the sequence. Only a few p-frames are allowed before a new iframe is introduced into the sequence as new reference points. Since a small margin of error creeps in which each p-frame. Between I and p frames are bidirectional frames or B frames, based on the nearest I or P frames both before and after them. In our bouncing ball example, in a B frame the picture is stored as difference between the previous I or P frame and the B frame and as the difference between the B frame and the following I or P frame. To recreate the B frame when playing back the sequence, the MPEG algorithms uses a combination of two references. There may be a number of B frames between I or P frames. No other frame is ever based on the B frame, so they don't propagate error like P frames. Typically, you will have 2 or 3 BS between IS or PS and perhaps 3 to 5 P frames between IS.